You know, even though Harley Davidson has been around for well over a century at this point, and we're a part of one of the oldest traditions in the United States, we are still wildly misunderstood. And that's what we're going to talk about today as I give you 7 things that Harley Davidson riders do that you'll probably never understand. But I want to give you a reason as to why you will see a typical Harley rider doing these things. And what makes it really cool is the fact that most Harley riders can probably check off 1, 2, 3, maybe everything on this list. Now, I'm going to tell you my opinion from my perspective on why Harley riders do these certain things and what are some of these things. But of course, I want to hear from you too, because you may wildly disagree or agree with my opinion. But before the video starts, I want to come up with one single question. What makes Harley Davidson so loved even 120 something years later? Leave that down below and let's go ahead and jump right in to topic number 1, which is quite controversial, especially with other motorcyclists of other brands, if you will. Maybe not Indian, but definitely some of the other brands, and that is gear. A typical Harley rider, a lot of the times will be missing traditional gear. Now, there is kind of a limit as to what a lot of us are willing to ride or ride without. For me, for example, right, I wear boots every single day, so it's not a big deal for me. So I always have boots on, and I make sure that they are slip resistant, because when you put your foot down on a bagger, there's nothing worse than having your foot slide out from underneath you. Jeans is another thing. I don't wear Kevlar infused jeans. I probably should, and I'm not opposed to it at all, to be quite honest with you, but I wear regular jeans. Now, depending on the temperature, if it's cold outside like it is right now, of course, I'm always wearing a t-shirt, but then maybe a long sleeve, and then maybe a jacket over the top of that. If it's hot outside, I understand that the proper way to keep cool is to have something against your skin, but when I'm in stop and go traffic, and I got jeans on and a long sleeve or even a jacket, it don't fly for me, dude. I get hot very quickly, and I don't want anything else on my skin. So at the bare minimum, I will wear a t-shirt. Now, that's part of the risk that I take. Maybe this coming year I'll find something that can help me kind of cover up my arms and here, that's lightweight and breathable, but also abrasive resistant, right? But that's besides the point. At minimum, I'm wearing a t-shirt. And then a helmet, right? So 99% of the time, it's going to be a full face helmet. I have a half helmet you see right over here on the wall, but some kind of helmet, I have to have one on. It just doesn't even feel right to not wear a helmet. Glasses and gloves, right? Protecting my hands is very important, because this is kind of the first thing you do if you were to go down is brace with your hands. And from what I hear, asphalt and skin do not play nicely with one another. You'll see other guys out there with shorts and a t-shirt, sandals. This to me is unacceptable for me. If I see somebody out there doing that, I kind of think it's not very smart. But then there's other riders that look at me and like, oh my God, that guy's an idiot. He's gonna tear his entire, arms up and all of his tattoos off of his, body if he were to go down. So there's different levels to it, but typically you'll see Harley riders in less attire than what other sport bike riders may be, KTM guys or any of the other motorcycle brands besides Indian. You're going to see us in less attire, and it's simply because we accept the additional risk that comes along with it, but also it's just what's comfortable to you. Now that kind of leads me into my next thing, which is why so many of us wear black. And so by wearing brightly colored garments, attire, it is going to be easier for you to be seen. So why would so many of us freaking choose to wear black? It just seems like an awful choice. Well, it's really not. Even like the rain jacket I wear, it has like, one of them has like an orange reflective stripe on it. One of them has a silver reflective stripe. Of course, the rest of it is black. But leather specifically is something that you'll see in the cruiser Harley Davidson community a lot, because it does provide incredible protection if you were to go down. Chaps, that's another thing that's really popular this time of year because it just helps block the wind and does a really good job when it's cold outside. If you've ever put on a pair of long johns and a pair of chaps over your jeans, I mean, dude, you can ride pretty much all day and be super comfortable. One of my favorite jackets I have is a Harley Davidson jacket. It's a Willie G jacket, actually. And I love the way it fits, and I love the way it looks. And looks is a big part of Harley Davidson, as you're about to see with some more examples here in a minute. But it also offers a practicality to it as well. So if you get any kind of dirt, grime, things from the road, things from your bike, maybe if you're on a long road trip, it just doesn't show any kind of dirt really. So it's really kind of practical when you're exposed to the elements and you're dealing with a lot of stuff. You can still look fairly clean with black attire on. And it's kind of a nod to those guys that rode after World War II. You know, they started these clubs and a lot of them wore black, and it's just kind of carried down through tradition, and that's a big part of Harley Davidson. So almost every single rider that you see out there will have some kind of black attire on because it's just it's a staple in our community, but it does have some practical uses as well. One thing you'll see me do is I actually have, I wear black all the time, but I have a white helmet. So that will help me to be seen as well, right? So it does add some contrast there, but pretty much everything else, besides my jeans, will be black. I'll have some kind of black on for sure because it's just a staple color in the Harley Davidson community. Why do you guys spend so much time cleaning your motorcycles? It seems really silly, right? Now I have a friend like this who literally carries a microfiber cloth in one of his little holders. He's got a Road Glide Limited. I've seen other riders, it starts raining outside. This actually happened at Iron Mountain Road in Sturgis. And after the rain stopped, you see everybody pulling out their microfibers like it's a part of the motorcycle gear you have to have, right? It's like some of the videos I've done in the past. You gotta have a microfiber towel and even cleaning solution, right? That's another thing. People are like pulling it out, they're cleaning their bikes. Yes, a lot of us spend a lot of time making sure the bikes look good all the time. Me, I'm not that kind of rider. I'll let it build up, build up, build up, and then eventually I'll be like, okay, I gotta clean it. That's another reason I like black, because it doesn't show up nearly as much stuff, at least the type of black they use on the engine and stuff like that. And then I'll pick like my Whiskey Fire or my industrial grade denim. That bike was fantastic at hiding a bunch of dirt, so I didn't have to clean it a whole lot. Big part of Harley Davidson is simply the look. When it comes to two-wheeled machines, I hate to break it to you, and I'm gonna kind of sit up on a pedestal here for just a second. There really is no better looking machine, in my opinion, than a clean Harley Davidson, whether it's chrome or black, from fairing to tailpipe, fender to saddlebag, seats to the engine, the entire package. They just look absolutely fantastic. Hands down, sorry, it's just the way it is. They are the best looking machines on the road. And a lot of us, not myself, but a lot of us will keep those things pristine each and every day. The other part of that, why would you spend $30,000 on a machine, on a motorcycle, two-wheel? I mean, you get so much less practicality out of that machine, and you spend 30 grand on it, and it's lacking technology that other motorcycle manufacturers are using, and it's slower than most other manufacturers, including Indians. This one is quite simple. Now, if you know anything about me, maybe you're not familiar with my channel, that's fine too. I like Indian motorcycles. I think they do a fantastic job. I've chosen Indians sometimes when I compare them to Harleys. But most of the time, when it comes down to it, it comes down to aesthetics. When I'm comparing a Harley to an Indian, I just like the aesthetics of a Harley Davidson better. And a lot of us are looking not necessarily for performance, even though if you've never been on an 850 pound bagger with a 117, a 121 in it, or even an upgraded like a 135, you're in for a freaking surprise. That Road Glide ST, the one they came out with last year, absolute monster, dude. But the vast majority of Harley Davidson riders are looking to look their best on their motorcycles and kind of enjoy the ride getting there. It's not so much getting to the destination as fast as you possibly can. I know it sounds cliche and maybe stupid to some, but it literally is about the destination itself. It's about what happens in between that, right? Now, me, I'm somebody, I like to ride for 30, 45 minutes, an hour, and take a stop and, look around or do something. I like to have destinations, right? But what happens in between those destinations is really kind of the story or the stories that you will tell to your kids or friends or anything else. And Harleys, we don't really need them to go 200 miles an hour. We don't need them to go from 0 to 60 in, under 2 seconds. Now, if you have no respect for Harley Davidson and their performance capabilities, I encourage you to watch like King of the Baggers, and you will get a different perspective of what these things can actually do. But for the vast majority of us, it's about what happens in the destination or in between destinations that really matters. We want to be comfortable. We want to have our radio. We want to maybe even have a simpler machine that's just us, the machine, and the road. We also want to have a spot for our honey because a lot of us ride two up. And the biggest thing I know for me personally is comfort. One thing I would have never done just 5 or 6 years ago is put some kind of backrest on my bike. I thought they looked just ridiculous. Now, I ain't riding a motorcycle without a backrest. So, that's just me personally, right? But a lot of us are like that. We want comfort, want to enjoy the ride, enjoy it with our significant others, but also look good at the same time. And Harleys kind of do all of that. Then a lot of people will say, well, why do you spend so much money on accessories? This is not exclusive to Harley Davidson riders. I just want to go ahead and throw that out there. But when it comes to the accessory market, whether you're going OEM or aftermarket, there really is no other brand to kind of go with, because every reputable manufacturer that's selling motorcycle parts has Harley Davidson parts. And so when you buy one of those $30,000 machines straight from the dealer, there's going to be quite a few things that you're going to want to change and that you should change to kind of better suit you. And fortunately, there's a big market for this, and you're able to change one part at a time. So even though you may have a lot of money invested in accessories and all this stuff over time, you can still piece it out and do it relatively inexpensive over time if you want to. $300 here, $200 here, $50 here, $70 here. Yes, we all have a lot of money wrapped up into accessories. I don't think there is a such thing as a stock Harley Davidson, except for literally the ones that are on the showroom floor. But once you add a few things to them, exhaust, intake, a tune, that's going to do wonders for you. First of all, it's going to bring out the Harley sound that we all love. Second, it's just going to make it look better. It's going to make it function better for you as well. They take an input from riders, across the country or however they do that, where, hey, what do you like about the seating position on this bike or this bike? And, they may make minor changes or keep things the same, depending on what the vast majority of riders think about seating position, handlebars, foot position, all that kind of stuff. But if it doesn't work for you, you can change pretty much anything on a Harley Davidson, right? There's no lack of parts out there, that's for sure. So you're able to get all of those, do it one piece at a time, or do the whole freaking bike if you want to, and you're able to change each and everything to fit your style and fit the aesthetics and, of course, posture, riding position, all of that to cater to you better than any brand out there. Now, here's one of those great contradictions in the motorcycle world, and especially in the Harley Davidson world. Surely you've heard that drinking and riding is a bad idea. Drinking and driving is terrible. Drinking and riding is especially dangerous because you need all of your senses to work. You're riding a machine, less people are going to be able to see you. A lot of the times it's late at night. Lighting, visibility, all of that is reduced, and then you add something in the mix that can literally change your perception, reaction time, all of that. Why would you do it? Why do so many of us meet at so-called biker bars? Well, I love this part of it, but I don't even drink, right? It's more of a socialization type of thing, right? You get a bunch of bikers together. All you have to do is go to one event and you will, start to see this, or there may even be biker bars in your area that you see a lot of motorcycles. Like, hey, why do they all hang out there if drinking and riding is so bad? Now, of course, you have to know your own body, but at the end of the day, it is a great place to socialize. You don't necessarily have to be drinking to hang out with people at a bar. A lot of people will use this to meet new riders, to socialize, to tell them about their rides, tell them what happened throughout the day, especially if you're getting a bunch of guys together or girls together that are going somewhere like Sturgis or Daytona, some of the big events, and you will kind of be able to share all of these things. And then, if you're kind of a lone rider and you want to meet people, this is a fantastic place to meet riders and maybe potentially gain lifelong friends out of it. Contrary to popular belief, the biker community is one of the most caring when it comes to their own. And their own means anybody else that's on two wheels. The vast majority of riders I've come across care more about other riders on two wheels because there is a certain degree of respect, camaraderie between you, knowing that both of you take these additional risks because of something you absolutely love to do. And I say this with a degree of certainty that there really is no other community out there that is like the Harley one. And the last one is the Harley Flat. Why do you spend a bunch of money for an unreliable piece of junk? Oil leaks and electrical issues. I mean, they're heavy and outdated, and some of your bikes look like just like the ones they did from the frickin' 70s and 80s. I don't understand it. This is kind of some people's way of thinking. Well, one thing you got to understand, like with oil leaks, right? This hasn't been like a major problem in a really long time. A lot of the unreliability that you hear about Harley Davidson stems from AMF, which was back in the 70s, right? But then, just like everything, kind of moved past it. You can't, for most companies to succeed, you can't continue to make a garbage product and people continue to buy them. And that includes Harley Davidson as well. So if you think over the past 40 or 50 years that all these machines have just been absolute junk, why would people buy them? You're sadly mistaken, right? So voltage regulator this past year on the new 24s, it's part of it. There was like an oil line issue in the 2017 models. Oil would kind of spew out from that line that wasn't properly clamped down or whatever it was, and then it would get on the rear tire, and motorcycle tires and slick anything, include especially oil or tire shine or anything like that, that's a recipe for disaster, right? But every manufacturer has recalls, especially with new designs, just the way it is, right? My motorcycle last year, I had a whole host of different issues with it. Once we finally got it figured out, the thing's been perfect since. You may say, well, yeah, those things, okay, maybe they don't have as many oil issues like they used to, but doesn't it vibrate the teeth out of your head? I mean, I see other motorcycles, you start them up, they're like so freaking smooth. Well, that is a part of the character, right? That's a part of the way the camshaft and the timing is set up. That's why you get that specific Harley Davidson sound. Rip, check that out. Whew, that's a Harley shake, dude. Right, it's very unique to just Harley Davidsons. And they've been able to balance that out in the engines and reduce the vibration by a lot. But there's some people that don't want to buy newer motorcycles because they love that vibration at lower speeds, right? Or at idle, because it's just, again, it's a part of the character, right? And that's a part of it too. Harley Davidsons are super reliable now, but every little part that you change on that bike, everything you add to it or you take away, or if you do have an issue, it kind of creates a bond there between you and the rider. It's not like with some motorcycles, right? You ride them, you're like, oh, that's really cool. But there's no connection to the machine. If you have one, man, you're like, ah, oh, yeah, that thing vibrated freaking teeth out of your head. But man, it ran well. Once you got up on the throttle and you got into third and fourth gear, the thing ran like a freaking champ. I don't know. Whatever that example may be, there's just more of a connection to Harley Davidson and their owners, and it's really hard probably to understand unless you actually buy one. It sounds like more of a headache than what it actually is. Most of the time you see these guys cleaning like we talked about and telling stories about what happened on this specific trip and how you and the bike almost went down, you hit some wet leaves in a corner, or you did this and that. I remember the last time I was up in Tennessee, it was freaking dark outside, and we had just come back from the tail of the dragon getting something to eat, and I knew there was rocks that are traditionally in this road because it's like this old restaurant, and there's rocks in the parking lot of the restaurant. So when people pull out, they drag a bunch of rocks out in the road. And I knew I was coming up on this spot. I knew the rocks were going to be there. And this time they were actually spread almost all the way across the road. So I ended up hitting them at 45 miles an hour. Bike shimmied a little bit, and we made it through it. When I rode the Rattler with my 2020 Road Glide, kind of ran off the road a little bit on that one, right? That was my first curvy road experience. And one flaw that I personally have that I have to work on, and something that I kind of found out when I trained with Robert at Be The Boss, is turning the handlebars, right? I gotta learn to do that more. And so it was just simply, right, looking and turning those handlebars and trusting the motorcycle. Road was a little slick, whatever, but that was a part of the experience. I'll never forget that, right? And I'll never forget what bike I was riding. When I got caught in the rainstorm, that same trip going up to Tennessee, I've talked about that several times. It was absolutely nuts, dude. But I got caught in a similar rainstorm on my 19 Street Glide special. And I mean, we came back from a restaurant with a couple friends, and I mean, it absolutely poured. I was not prepared at all. Me, missed heck shot on the back, and I'm telling you, dude, dripping. I mean, just absolutely a disaster. Got my first Harley Davidson in 2017. Very first time riding a bike in 10 years. I decide, hey, I'm going to drive this thing to work on a Saturday. Very light traffic. Check the weather, like 3 or 4 times before I left the house, because I knew it was kind of scattered showers here and there. I say, oh man, it looks clear, boom. Get on one of the sketchiest roads in my area, Sky Falls. And I'm going 35 miles an hour. I do not trust myself. I do not trust the tires. I don't trust the rain. I don't trust the curves. I don't trust anything at this point. But man, that's one of those trips I will never forget. And I won't forget the bike I was on. 24 Road Glide, just this past year, Iron Mountain Road. Man, we get up there, and as soon as we kind of pay for our park tag or whatever, and they're like, oh man, it's calling for hail up on Iron Mountain. I'm like, oh God, here we go. We get up there, we get halfway down the road. Well, no, I think we actually got like a quarter of the way down the road, and it's absolutely beautiful, man. Just gorgeous. And we pull over because it starts raining. We meet up with another group, just a random group of people. Talk with them for a while, get up to the saloon on Iron Mountain Road. I think it is Iron Mountain Saloon, right? And I mean, the sky's falling, right? And everybody's under, this one little covered area on that, out on the porch or the sitting area outside, eating and whatever else. And then we go the rest of the ride. Roads are wet. And you got these these crazy U-turns. I mean, these are actual U-turns, bro. I mean, these are actual U-turns, right? And so, you know, you have to trust your bike in that situation. There's no other option. Otherwise, you're going in another lane, or you're gonna hit something on the right-hand side. You just have to trust your tires at that moment. But again, that's a part of it. You don't forget the bike. You don't forget the situation. You don't forget those types of stories, and you get to kind of tell those stories, and the bike is a part of the experience. And if you suffer a breakdown, or you know, maybe you have a bike that has an ultra cool, quirky type of characteristic, it's all a part of it. Whoever the character is riding matches the character of the bike. Sometimes you mesh well, sometimes you don't, but that is just a part of it. You don't really get that with any other motorcycle brand. That's just the way it is. But that's my opinion. I'd love to hear yours. What do you think some of the reasons are that people gravitate to Harley still, even with outdated technology and whatever else you want to talk about? Why? Why do people still gravitate to this brand? Tell me some of your motorcycle stories down below, some of the instances you had, or close calls, or events, or weather events, or some of the stories that you want to tell about you and the bike you were riding down below as well. Love to see those. Big thanks to you guys. See you in the next one. And as always, hold them down.